Captain's Log. Stardate 4523-1.7. The USS Enterprise D is investigating a mysterious spatial rift adrift in the far reaches of Federation space. The anomaly swirls a few thousand kilometers off our bow, a violet and silver maw twisting the fabric of space. Initial scans are inconclusive, but there's something oddly familiar yet foreign about its energy signature. On the bridge of the Enterprise, Captain Jean-Luc Picard stands up from his command chair with a measured calm. "Report, number 1, he says, glancing towards Commander Riker. Commander William Riker leans forward, studying the crackling rift on the view screen. "It appeared out of nowhere, Captain. Sensors are picking up fluctuations in quantum resonance." Lieutenant Commander Data's hands dance over his console as he adds in his precise, analytical tone. "The spatial anomaly is emitting a stable event horizon, sir. It may be a doorway to The pale android tilts his head, clearly intrigued. At Tactical, Lieutenant Worf, the ever-vigilant Klingon security chief, growls softly. "No sign of a threat yet, Captain, but I recommend raising shields until we know what it is." His brow ridges crease as he stares at the swirling vortex suspiciously. Picard nods. "Agreed, Lieutenant. Shields up, yellow alert." The soft hum of the ship's shields engaging resonates through the bridge. Everyone watches tensely as the anomaly pulses with increasing intensity, throwing shimmering reflections across the bridge. Suddenly, the ensign at Ops calls out, excitement in his voice. "Captain, I'm reading a life sign. Something or someone is coming through." Before their eyes, a silhouette forms amidst the swirling lights. With a flash, a figure tumbles out of the rift and materializes right on the bridge. The stranger lands in a low crouch on the carpeted deck, and within a heartbeat he's back on his feet. He's a young man, muscular, wearing a tattered green haramaki sash around his waist and 3 long swords strapped at his side. His short green hair is wild and windswept, and he has a fierce gaze, one eye covered by a scar. The moment he steadies himself, he instinctively reaches for his swords, yanking one out with a sharp metallic shimming. Worf is already vaulting over the railing from Tactical, interposing himself protectively between Picard and the newcomer. Phaser in hand, Worf snarls, "Drop your weapon now." The disoriented stranger pivots on his heel, back and shoulders tensed like a coiled spring. Rorona Zoro, though the crew doesn't know his name yet, has no idea where he is, but he sure isn't about to be caught defenseless. Steel flashes as he draws 2 of his swords, one in each hand, adopting a wide stance. His eyes dart around at the bizarre scene. He's on what looks like the shiny bridge of a ship, but unlike any vessel he's ever seen. Strangely dressed people surround him, some human, some not. He notices Worf's ridged Klingon features and momentarily wonders if he's face to face with a fishman or some new kind of creature. The bright lights, the alien architecture, the hum of high technology. It's overwhelming for a pirate swordsman used to wooden ships and open seas. "Who the hell are you people?" Zoro barks, tightening his grip on his swords. His voice is gruff and wary, though not panicked. This isn't the first time he's found himself in an odd predicament. Captain Picard raises a hand calmly. "We are not your enemies. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are safe here." His tone is diplomatic, soothing, but his eyes flick to Worf, signaling the security chief to hold position. Zoro's gaze shifts to Worf, who's circling slowly, phaser aimed steadily. Zoro doesn't know what that device is, but he can guess it's a weapon of some kind. The Klingon's muscular build and fierce scowl register as a clear challenge. A lesser man might be intimidated, but Zoro grins ever so slightly, finally something he can understand. A warrior is a warrior, phaser or sword. "Put down your swords," Worf orders again, taking a step closer. He is tense, ready to spring. The entire bridge is frozen in a silent standoff. Data monitors from his station, curious but prepared to act, while Riker stands protectively near Picard. Counselor Deanna Troi, seated to the captain's left, watches the stranger intently. Her empathic senses feel confusion, determination, and a singular focus emanating from him. In fact, Troi frowns, baffled. This young man's emotions are strangely straightforward, almost alarmingly simple in their clarity. No deceptive layers, just raw resolve and a bit of irritation. Zoro's eyes flick from Worf's face to the phaser. "Sorry, I don't take orders from strangers," he growls. His stance lowers. For a breath it looks like he might lunge at Worf, or anyone who comes close. The bridge crew tenses. Troi rises slightly, hands out in a placating gesture. "Please, we can feel how disoriented you are. We want to help you," she says gently, though internally she's perplexed. How can someone be so calm yet utterly lost at the same time? "We mean you no harm." Zoro's brow twitches. He senses no immediate killing intent from these people. In fact, they mostly look as confused as he is, and he's noticing they aren't attacking him, despite his drawn swords. A stark contrast to Marines or pirates who would have already charged. "Stand down, Lieutenant." Picard finally says quietly to Worf, "Let's try to resolve this peacefully." Worf hesitates, eyes never leaving Zoro, but he slowly lowers his phaser an inch. Zoro, seeing this show of trust, reluctantly eases his stance as well. He doesn't sheathe his blades yet, but he lowers them, the tension in the room deflating slightly. Data speaks up, his tone analytical but tinged with surprise. "Captain, sensors indicate he is human. However, his physiological readings are quite extraordinary. Muscle density, reflex responses, all significantly above normal human levels." His golden eyes fix on Zoro with open curiosity. Fascinating. Zoro eyes the pale, yellow-eyed officer suspiciously at the word human. "Of course I'm human. What else would I be?" He snaps, a bit offended at being analyzed like some specimen. Riker steps forward with his palms open in a placating gesture. "We're just a little surprised. You appeared out of thin air through that rift. This is a Federation starship, and you're on our bridge. Maybe we should start with introductions. My name's Commander Riker." He gives a friendly half-smile beneath his beard. The swordsman slowly nods. Processing. He grumbles. "Name's Roronoa Zoro. I was on a voyage, then that damn whirlpool or whatever it was swallowed me. Next thing I know, I'm here." He glances warily at the surrounding officers. "Which, by the way, where the heck is here?" Picard steps closer, gesturing to the grand view of star-studded space on the main screen. "This is the Starship Enterprise, in the 24th century, far from where you were. It seems you've passed through some kind of dimensional rift." He says it gently, knowing it's a lot to take in. Zoro's eyes widen a fraction as he looks at the view screen, seeing a galaxy of stars in front of him instead of open ocean. Space, futuristic technology, aliens. His jaw tightens stubbornly. "Kest, figures I'd get lost somewhere this crazy," he mutters under his breath. Getting lost is nothing new, but this is a record even for him. Troy senses a spike of bewilderment, and what might be an undercurrent of homesickness from him, flickers of loyalty and concern for something or someone not present. She tilts her head. "Captain." He's confused, but I sense he's not hostile. More worried he's far from where he needs to be. "And very, very lost," she adds wryly, still amazed at how literally true that feeling is in him. Worf slowly reholsters his phaser, though he keeps a warrior's stance. He gives Zoro a curt nod of respect. Any man brave enough to stand against a dozen strangers in an unknown environment without flinching has earned at least a little of Worf's regard. "You fight with honor," Worf rumbles begrudgingly. "But now that you are aboard this ship, you will follow Captain Picard's rules." Zoro sheaths one sword back at his side with a decisive click, but keeps another out, resting it over his shoulder casually. "Sure, I'll play nice as long as nobody tries to lock me up or take my swords. Deal?" He meets Picard's gaze. Zoro might be blunt, but he recognizes authority when he sees it, and he can tell this Picard guy is the one in charge, similar to a ship's captain or boss. Picard manages a small, polite smile. "We can agree to that, Mr. Zoro. Our main goal is to get you back to where you belong, but we may need your cooperation." Zoro nods, relaxing slightly now that it seems there won't be a brawl. "Fair enough. I just want to get back to my crew." With tensions easing, the rest of the bridge crew exhales. Data's fingers flicker over his console as he begins analyzing the rift's properties, already forming theories on how to reverse the process. Picard gestures to Worf. "Lieutenant, please escort our guest to sickbay so Dr. Crusher can check for any injuries, and have someone find him some quarters and perhaps some more appropriate attire." The captain notes Zoro's torn and salt-stained outfit, which stands out among the crisp Starfleet uniforms. Zoro immediately bristles at the mention of sickbay and attire. "I'm fine. I don't need a doctor," he protests. The thought of being poked and prodded in some space infirmary doesn't appeal to him at all. And what's wrong with my clothes? He looks down at his green open front jacket and pants, which have definitely seen better days. Sure, he's a bit roughed up, but it's practical pirate wear. Riker chuckles under his breath. Stubborn, isn't he? He murmurs quietly to Troy, who gives a knowing smile. She can sense Zoro's pride and independence flaring. Picard raises his hands in a reconciliatory gesture. As you wish. The doctor's visit can wait. Mr. Data, please give our guest a brief tour to orient him and ensure he doesn't lose his way. The captain addresses the last part delicately, which makes Riker hide a smirk, given how Troy highlighted the man's lost feeling. Zoro crosses his arms, one sword still dangling casually in his grip. I don't need a babysitter either, he grunts, but Data is already politely at his side. I assure you, sir, I am merely here to help. This ship can be rather confusing if you are unfamiliar with it. Zoro gives a non-committal, he won't admit it, but he could use a guide. These halls look all the same to him. With a curt nod, he signals he's ready to follow, at least for now. Data gestures toward the turbo-lift doors at the edge of the bridge. Zoro falls into step, swords clinking, as the rest of the bridge crew watches with a mixture of relief and curiosity. As Data leads him into the turbo-lift, Picard exhales and straightens his uniform. This certainly was not in the mission plan for the day. Number 1, you have the bridge, he says, heading to his ready room to confer with the science team on how to send their unexpected visitor home. Troy sinks back into her seat, shaking her head in mild disbelief. In all my years, I've never felt anyone quite like him, so straightforward. It's like his emotions only go in one direction. Riker chuckles. Let's just hope Mr. Zoro can follow our directions. Otherwise, things might get interesting. Things do indeed get interesting almost immediately. Mere minutes after leaving the bridge, Zoro and Data step out of the turbo-lift into a stretch of corridor somewhere on Deck 10. The ship's interior is pristine and maze-like, with junctions and identical doors stretching in both directions. Data proceeds to point out various sections, the direction to crew quarters, to the holodecks, to the mess hall. Zoro nods absently, trying to listen. But truth be told, all these corridors look exactly the same to him. As Data explains the layout in his precise manner, Zoro's attention drifts. He peers down one corridor that seems to curve endlessly. A slight frown crosses his face. Didn't we pass that same potted plant earlier? Or is it another identical one? He wonders, already feeling the familiar pang of navigational doubt. Data goes on, and this turbo lift can take you directly to 10 forward, which is a lounge area. Now, Mr. Zoro, if you will follow me, your temporary quarters are just this way. When Data turns to gesture down the hall, he finds empty air. The spot where a swordsman should be is vacant. Data blinks a learned human mimicry in surprise. Roro Noah Zoro has vanished. Unbeknownst to the android, Zoro had spotted what he thought was a familiar symbol on a door, thinking it might be a way out or something important, slipped away down an intersecting corridor. It happened in the span of seconds while Data was pointing the other direction. By the time Data realizes it, Zoro is already gone, having taken a wrong turn or 3. Now, Zoro wanders the Enterprise D alone. His expression is a mix of determination and mounting annoyance. The ship is enormous, and its corridors twist and branch in ways that make no sense to him. Left, right, another left. Was it 2 rights? He mentally curses, trying to retrace steps, and only getting more turned around. After a few minutes, he finds himself in an area humming with machinery. He pushes through a set of double doors that slide open with a soft whoosh. Suddenly, he's surrounded by a bustle of officers in gold uniforms, and the low thrum of an enormous blue-lit cylinder dominating a multi-level chamber. Unbeknownst to Zoro, he has barged right into main engineering, the heart of the ship. The warp core glows brightly, casting dancing light across Zoro's face. He pauses on the upper walkway, eyebrows raised. This certainly doesn't look like an exit. Instead, it looks like, well, he's not sure what it looks like. Some kind of temple. The huge vertical column with pulsing energy could be an altar for all he knows, given its prominence. At the railing, Chief Engineer Gordy LaForge nearly jumps out of his skin at the sight of a sword-wielding stranger wandering into his engine room. He was engrossed in calibrating a conduit when the door swished open, revealing Zoro's imposing figure. Gordy turns abruptly, visor sensors flashing. "Whoa! Hey, you're not supposed to be here," he yelps. Several other engineering crew members back away from their consoles, eyes wide at the sight of Zoro's drawn sword and rough appearance. To them, it's as if a holodeck character came alive, or some Klingon mercenary just strolled in. One ensign taps her comm badge urgently. "Security to engineering. Intruder alert." Zoro blinks at the sudden commotion. All he did was walk through a door. Why is everyone acting like he's a bomb about to go off? He holds up one hand, the other still gripping his sword loosely. "Hey, relax. I'm not here to hurt anyone," he calls out, baffled. Gordy steps forward carefully, palms out. "You must be the visitor Captain Picard mentioned. Mr. Zoro, right? Look, this area is off limits. It's dangerous for you to just wander in here." His tone is diplomatic, but he's also inching toward a wall panel to maybe call for more backup if needed. Zoro tilts his head. "Off limits? I'm just trying to find the way out of this blasted ship." He casts an exasperated look around. "Your buddy in yellow was supposed to guide me, but I lost him, or he lost me." Gordy can't help a small chuckle of disbelief. How on earth did Data lose him? "Okay, well, until someone comes to get you, please just stay right there. That," he gestures to the warp core behind him, "is our engine. It's very powerful, and if you start swinging that sword around here, you could cause a lot of trouble." Zoro glances at the towering warp core again. It hums with power, a column of light and energy. He scratches the back of his head with his free hand, not fully understanding, but guessing it's something important to these people. "Fair enough. I'm not looking for a fight, just a way out. Is there a door to the outside around here, or not?" Gordy's jaw drops behind his visor. "Outside? You realize we're in space, right? There's no outside door you can just walk out of without a spacesuit." That bit of information lands awkwardly. Zoro knew he was on a ship in space, but hearing it phrased that way makes him grimace at the absurdity. "Figures." He shakes his head. "Space, right." At that moment, two burly security officers rush in, phasers drawn, panting, as if they ran full sprint. They find Zoro standing idle, and Gordy gesturing for calm. One of them is about to bark an order at Zoro, but Gordy interjects. "It's okay. It's okay." He's cooperating. The security officers still approach warily. "Sir, we can escort you back to one begins." But Zoro, fed up with being corralled, holds up a finger in a hold-on gesture. "Nah, I've had enough of being led around. I'll find it myself." Before anyone can stop him, Zoro turns and strides right out the other doors of engineering. Ironically, not the way he came in. The officers exchange aghast looks, and one mutters, "How did he just walk out like that?" Jajordi sighs, tapping his comm badge. LaForge to bridge. "We've, lost Zoro." Again. On the other side of the door, Zoro is already power-walking down another corridor. "These people and their rules," he grumbles. "I just need a drink." As if on cue, he catches a whiff of something enticing. The faint aroma of ale, or maybe wine, wafting from around a corner. Following his nose, perhaps a more reliable guide than his sense of direction, Zoro makes another turn and finds himself in front of two large doors. Above them, a small sign reads 10 forward. The doors slide open, and Zoro steps through into a completely different ambiance. 10 forward is a large lounge, with expansive windows showing the starry expanse outside. The lighting is warmer, and clusters of off-duty crew sit at tables sipping colorful drinks. A low murmur of conversation and clinking glasses fills the air. Zoro's entrance draws a few stares. It's not every day a shirtless man with a green haramaki, 3 swords and battle-scarred physique wanders in. He ignores the looks and heads straight for the long bar along the side. Behind it stands a serene woman with warm eyes and an intriguing, timeless presence. Ginan, the bartender, watches him approach with a knowing smile, as if star-hopping swordsmen were nothing out of the ordinary. "You look like you could use a drink," Ginan says calmly, wiping a glass. She's utterly unfazed by Zoro's unusual appearance. In her centuries of life, she's seen stranger things. "You have no idea, lady," Zoro mutters, sliding onto a bar stool. He plants his elbows on the bar, one hand still casually holding his unsheathed sword, which causes a nervous glance or two from nearby crew. "Got anything strong? Sake if you have it. If not, surprise me." Ginan chuckles softly. "Sake, we might have something similar. How about Aldebaran whiskey? It's strong and has a kick, I promise." She reaches under the bar and pulls out a curious green bottle, pouring a glass of emerald liquid. Zoro raises an eyebrow at the green drink, but shrugs and knocks it back in one go. The moment the whiskey hits his tongue, his eye widens slightly. It's potent, with a strange alien burn. He slams the glass down, exhaling. "Heh, not bad," he admits, a hint of a grin showing. "Though I've had grog that could floor an elephant." A couple of crew members at a nearby table blink in astonishment at the way this stranger just downed a glass of Ginan's strongest stock without so much as flinching. One whispers to the other, "Did you see that? Even Worf waters that stuff down." Ginan pours another, clearly amused. "You're not from around here," she says in a tone that isn't really a question. Zoro smirks. "That obvious. Let's just say I'm a little far from home." Before Ginan can inquire further, the lounge doors hiss open again with a bit more urgency. Lieutenant Worf bursts in, followed closely by Commander Riker. They scan the room and quickly lock onto the green-haired swordsman at the bar. Worf's posture is rigid with equal parts irritation and relief at having found him, and Riker looks like he's torn between laughing and scolding. Every patron in 10 forward senses the tension and begins to quietly edge away from the looming confrontation. A few ensigns near Zoro slip off their stools and make a quick exit, leaving a respectful distance around the oblivious pirate. Zoro side-eyes the newcomers and sighs into his whiskey. "What now?" he mumbles. He was just starting to relax. Worf approaches like an angry bull. "I gave you an order to stay put," he barks. Do you have any idea how much disruption you've caused on this ship already? Zoro swivels on his stool to face the Klingon, lazily resting one hand on the hilt of a sheathed sword. His other sword still lies unsheathed on the bar by his drink. I told your captain I'd play nice. I never agreed to be caged, he retorts, voice cool. Besides, your guide lost me. Not my fault this ship's like a cursed maze. Riker steps in, arms partially raised to de-escalate. Easy, both of you. He addresses Zoro. Listen, running off on a starship is a big no-no. We have protocols. Worf here was worried you might hurt someone or yourself. Zoro snorts. I can handle myself, and I'm not looking to hurt your people. But I'm not gonna sit around twiddling my thumbs either. Worf's eyes narrow. As head of security, having an armed loose cannon roaming the Enterprise is absolutely unacceptable. Yet, he also sees a warrior's pride in Zoro's stance that he begrudgingly respects. The Klingon in him would likely do the same in a strange place, find a drink, and assert independence. Perhaps we should settle this in a way we both understand, Worf rumbles. There's a sudden gleam in his eye that causes Riker to shoot him a surprised glance. Worf steps forward, nearly nose to nose with Zoro, and lowers his voice to a gravelly tone. A sparring match. You and me. Holodeck. I win. You follow our rules without complaint. You win. He tilts his head, considering. Then you will have earned the right to roam more freely until we get you home. A slow grin spreads over Zoro's face. He certainly didn't expect that. But the proposition hits him right in his wheelhouse. Ha, so a duel to settle things, huh? I was starting to think you Federation types had no spine. He stands from the stool, grabbing and resheathing his loose sword. All right, Klingon, you're on. Riker sighs, knowing he should probably discourage this, but he also knows Worf, and can tell the Klingon's mind is set. And truth be told, Riker is curious who would win this clash of titans. Just don't break my ship, gentlemen, he says with a resigned smirk. Guinan, still watching placidly, interjects smoothly. Try Program 17 in the holodeck. It's one of Worf's favorites. Nice big open space. She gives Worf a sly look, recalling the many times Worf used the holodeck for bat'leth training. Worf grunts appreciatively. That will do. Zoro downs the second glass of Aldebaran whiskey in one gulp for good measure, then wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. Lead the way. A short while later, on holodeck 3, the doors part to reveal a simulated arena. A circular platform ringed by tall Klingon torches burning with digital fire. The holodeck's arch vanishes as the program completes, and suddenly it feels as if they're standing on a rocky plain under a crimson alien sky. Jagged mountains in the distance and the faint roar of an imaginary crowd set the stage. It's dramatic, if a bit over the top, but Worf did select one of his favorite calisthenics programs after all. Zoro steps in and whistles, clearly impressed despite himself. Now this is more like it. Kinda reminds me of home in a weird way. Plenty of room to swing a sword. He cracks his neck and rolls his shoulders, loosening up. Worf marches to the center of the arena, removing his Starfleet uniform jacket to free up movement. To Zoro's surprise, the Klingon reaches behind a weapons rack, conveniently generated by the program, and pulls out a massive curved blade with twin prongs. A Klingon bat'leth. The polished metal gleams in the torchlight as Worf spins it with practiced ease. Zoro's one good eye lights up at the sight of the blade. That's one hell of a sword, he remarks, genuine admiration in his tone. He immediately draws all three of his swords in a flourish of steel. He holds two in his hands, and to Worf's mild astonishment, clenches the third between his teeth. The imagery is almost feral, like some mythical three-fanged beast. Worf's thick eyebrows rise. Clearly he's never seen a fighting style quite like this, but he only bares his own teeth in a fierce grin. "I am Commander Worf, son of Morph. Prepare yourself, Zoro." Nearby, Riker and Data stand at the edge of the arena, as informal referees and fascinated spectators. Data has a tricorder device out, already recording and analyzing everything at lightning speed. Tri has also quietly followed, curious to observe this clash. She watches from a safe distance, picking up the cocktail of anticipation, competitive zeal, and a surprising mutual respect forming between the combatants. Zoro bends his knees, swords akimbo, and a wild grin spreads across his face. This is the kind of situation he lives for. Give me all you've got, Worf." His voice is slightly muffled by the hilt in his mouth, but the intent is crystal clear. Without further preamble, Worf charges with a thunderous Klingon roar that echoes across the arena. He swings the bat'leth in a powerful overhead arc. Zoro meets it head-on, crossing two swords above him to catch the blow. Metal clashes against metal with a shower of sparks. The sheer force behind Worf's strike is tremendous. It reverberates down Zoro's arms and into the floor beneath his feet. Yet, Zoro holds firm, muscles bulging as he absorbs the impact. For a heartbeat, they strain in a deadlock. Worf growling, fangs bared. Zoro gritting his teeth on the sword hilt, eye blazing with excitement. Then Zoro pivots, twisting his blades to parry and deflect Worf's bat'leth to the side. The Klingon stumbles forward a half step from his own momentum. Zoro uses that moment to counterattack. He spins low and fast, sweeping at Worf's midsection with the sword in his right hand. Worf barely brings the bat'leth down in time to block, and the force of the swing actually shoves the hefty Klingon back a pace, leaving him wide-eyed at the human strength. Data's voice cuts through the clash, analytical and amazed. "Remarkable, Mr." Zoro's reaction time is approximately 0.2 seconds faster than Lieutenant Worf's, and his strike force is nearly 1.7 times greater than Worf's last match with a holographic opponent. Data tilts his head, calling out helpfully, "Lieutenant, I would suggest anticipating his feints." "Data," Riker interjects, half chuckling, half warning. "Maybe let them figure it out." Troy winces as the two warriors exchange a flurry of blows that ring through the air. "I don't need empathic senses to feel the intensity there," she murmurs. Although oddly, she thinks to herself, they're both enjoying this. Indeed, Worf hasn't felt a challenge like this in a long time. Zoro's three-sword style is unlike any Mokbara or fencing technique, Worf knows. The swordsman can strike from unconventional angles. At one point, Worf lunges and only then realizes Zoro's third blade, still gripped in his mouth, is coming in from a completely unexpected direction, forcing Worf to pull back lest he gets slashed across the chest. The graze he does get on his uniform is enough to draw a surprised grunt from the Klingon. Worf laughs then, a deep hearty sound, as he and Zoro circle each other. "You fight well for a human," he taunts, breathless but elated by the contest. Zoro smirks around the hilt between his teeth and replies with something that sounds like, "You're not half bad yourself." It comes out garbled, but Worf gets the point. Both are sporting a few bruises and scrapes. The holodeck safeties are on a low setting at Worf's request. quest for realism, so minor injuries can happen. They clash again, swords ringing. Worf twists his bat'leth and hooks one of Zoro's katanas, wrenching it from his grasp. The blade clatters to the holographic ground and disappears, the program registering it as disarmed. Zoro is momentarily down to 2 swords, but he compensates by going on the offensive. With a swift move, he ducks under Worf's next swing and delivers a blunt pommel strike with the hilt of one sword to Worf's midsection. Worf oofs, momentarily winded. The audience of 3 winces in unison. Zoro then kicks the bat'leth, trying to knock it out of Worf's hands. Worf holds tight, but the impact throws him off balance. Zoro raises his right-hand sword, aiming the tip just inches from Worf's throat in a flash, a clear finishing position. Worf freezes, realizing he's bested for this round. The two stare at each other, panting. A slow smile spreads on Worf's face, barring a fang in approval. Instead of anger, the Klingon throws his head back and lets out a booming laugh. He gently pushes the sword tip aside, and Zoro eases back, removing the blade from his mouth with a relieved sigh. It's tough to talk with that thing in there. An excellent duel, Worf says, standing upright and thumping his chest once in a Klingon salute. You have the heart of a Klingon warrior, Zoro. Coming from Worf, that is high praise. Zoro grins and sheathes his remaining swords. The holodeck helpfully rematerializes the one he dropped. Not sure what a Klingon is exactly, but I'll take that as a compliment. He reaches out, and in a moment that surprises Riker and Troy, Worf and Zoro clasp forearms in a warrior's handshake. Two fighters, who were at each other's throats minutes ago, now wear matching grins of hard-earned respect. Data steps forward, applauding lightly, as Riker gives a low whistle. Remind me not to get on either of your bad sides, the first officer quips. Troy observes the shift in Zoro's demeanor. His emotional aura is calmer now, almost content. That fierce loyalty within him burns steady. Perhaps he's thinking of his own captain and crewmates, whom he yearns to return to, but he's also formed a small bond here in battle. Troy smiles to herself. Zoro may be stubborn and simple in his emotional makeup, but moments like this show an honorable simplicity that's refreshingly direct. The friendly moment is cut short by a blaring klaxon and the lights of the holodeck suddenly flashing red. The ship-wide alarm begins to sound. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Riker instantly taps his comm badge. Riker here. What's going on? Through the comm, Picard's voice is terse. Commander, we have intruders aboard. Klingon transport signatures detected on decks 8 and 9. Security teams intercept. Worf's face snaps from camaraderie to intense focus. Klingons. Here, he snarls. Fate seems to have a cruel sense of timing. Worf spends years on a Federation starship, with hardly a dust-up from Klingons, and now of all times a boarding party arrives. Zoro's eyes narrow. He doesn't fully grasp what Klingons are, besides presumably Worf's people, but he knows an alert when he hears one. Looks like the real fight's coming to us, he says, cracking his knuckles eagerly. The holodeck doors whisk open as Riker, Worf, Zoro, and Data rush out into the corridor. They split off at an intersection. Riker heads to the bridge to coordinate, while Worf leads Zoro and Data toward the nearest reported intruder location on Deck 9. The halls are bathed in flashing red lights as crew members scramble to their emergency posts. Rounding a corner, they come face to face with a squad of Klingon warriors stomping through the corridor. These Klingons are clad in rugged battle armor, brandishing serrated blades and disruptor pistols. It's immediately clear they are not friendly visitors.
They roar battle cries and advance upon spotting the Starfleet uniforms. The lead Klingon sneers at Worf. Kapla, traitor, he spits, recognizing Worf as the Starfleet Klingon. We've come to reclaim our honor in blood. It seems this is a rogue band, likely seeking to raid the Federation flagship for glory or vendetta. Worf doesn't waste breath on arguments. You picked the wrong ship, he growls. Phaser already in hand from earlier. He fires a well-aimed stun blast that catches one attacker square in the chest, sending the armored brute tumbling unconscious. Seeing their comrade fall, two Klingons bellow and charge with raised melee weapons. Zoro, ever eager, leaps into action beside Worf. In one fluid motion, he unsheathes his swords again, a steel symphony ringing through the corridor. A burly Klingon swings a deadly-looking megalith, a short sword at Zoro's head. Zoro ducks, effortlessly fast, and counters with the blunt side of one sword cracking across the Klingon's wrist. Bones crunch audibly. The Klingon howls as his weapon clatters away, only for Zoro to follow up with a swift kick that knocks the invader flat on his back. Another Klingon comes at Zoro from behind, phaser pointed. Look out! Data calls, surprisingly invested in his new friend's safety. But Zoro has already sensed the movement. He sidesteps and the disruptor beam sizzles past his ear, scorching a black mark on the wall. Before the Klingon can fire again, Zoro brings the hilt of a sword down on the attacker's hand, making him drop the gun with a curse. With his other hand, Zoro grabs the Klingon by the scruff of his armor and headbutts him. The Klingon's eyes roll back as he collapses, utterly dazed by the ferocity of a man who fights like a demon, but with no lasers or frills. Meanwhile, Worf has squared off against what appears to be the boarding party's leader, a scar-faced Klingon wielding a massive bat'leth of his own. The corridor rings with the clash of their blades. Worf fights with controlled fury, every bit the trained martial artist, but his opponent is younger and fueled by zealous rage, matching him strike for strike. Data, unable to use his phaser without risking hitting Worf or Zoro in the melee, decides to intervene more directly. He moves with blinding android speed towards a Klingon who is lining up a shot at Worf's back with a disruptor. In the blink of an eye, Data chops the weapon out of the Klingon's hand and lifts the surprised warrior by the collar, tossing him down the hall like a rag doll. The poor Klingon smacks into a bulkhead and slumps, thoroughly knocked out. Zoro finds himself back-to-back with Worf as the fight intensifies. An odd sight, a shirtless swordsman and a Starfleet Klingon fighting side by side. Zoro has to admit, Worf can handle himself well. Not bad, Worf, he calls, parrying a strike and elbowing a Klingon in the gut. Worf, fending off the bat'leth swings of the leader, grunts in response. You too for a human. There's almost a hint of a grin in his tone, even as he grimaces under a heavy blow. With a savage yell, the Klingon leader knocks Worf's phaser from his hand and forces him against the wall, bat'leth pressing dangerously close to Worf's neck. The Klingon snarls, "Today is a good day for you to die, traitor." But before he can follow through, Zoro intervenes with lightning speed. He lunges, interposing one of his katanas just in time, catching the bat'leth's edge inches from Worf's throat. The sharp weapons grind against each other, Zoro straining to hold the killing stroke at bay. The rogue Klingon's eyes widen in surprise at this stranger's audacity and strength. Zoro smirks, baring his own teeth. "You talk too much," he says, and with a mighty heave, he pushes the bat'leth aside, forcing the leader off balance. Zoro then performs a move so swift the Klingon scarcely sees it. Three swords blur as Zoro unleashes a brief, controlled cyclone of steel. For a split second, all three blades seem to strike simultaneously at different angles. It's not a lethal strike. Zoro is careful only to disarm and disable. The Klingon's bat'leth is sliced clean in half with a shower of sparks. His armored gauntlet is nicked, just enough to make him howl and drop the remaining pieces, and a final whack with the flat of Zoro's third sword across the helmet sends the leader sprawling to the deck, stunned and weaponless. Silence falls in the corridor. The only sounds are heavy breathing and the crackle of a damaged wall panel. Worf steps forward, picking up half of the severed bat'leth and eyeing it with something like awe. Zoro casually flicks his swords, then sheathes them one by one, the fight having barely ruffled him. The surviving conscious Klingon invaders groan and scramble back, gathering their fallen as they retreat. They hadn't anticipated this level of resistance. One clutches the slashed remains of the leader's weapon in disbelief. The leader himself, nursing a likely concussion, locks eyes with Worf and Zoro. There's fear and respect mingled in that gaze. Worf towers over him, fists clenched. You have failed. Surrender now, and you may leave with your dishonor still intact. Worf growls in Klingon to drive the point home. The defeated Klingon leader hesitates, then gives a curt, shamed nod. He barks an order for retreat to his crew. In moments, the intruders activate emergency transport beacons and shimmer away in beams of crimson light, no doubt very eager to return to their ship and flee. As the red alert siren fades, Zoro stands down from his battle stance and looks around, making sure no enemies remain. Seeing all the Klingons either incapacitated or gone, he cracks a grin. Well, that was a nice little workout. He glances at Worf. I think that makes us even, huh? I cause trouble, then help you fight off even bigger trouble. He chuckles. Worf is catching his breath, surveying the downed intruders with pride. Agreed. He nods to Zoro. You fought with honor and saved my life. He thumps his chest again in salute. I am in your debt. Coming from a Klingon, that is no small sentiment. Before Zoro can respond, and likely wave it off humbly, Captain Picard, Commander Riker, and a security team appear, hustling down the corridor. They take in the scene several unconscious Klingons' scorch marks, and two very unconventional warriors at the center of it. Looks like you two handled things here. Data, straightening his uniform, reports almost casually. Boarding party neutralized, sir. All intruders have either been stunned or have retreated.
Picard raises an eyebrow at Worf and Zoro. I see. Excellent work, both of you. He regards Zoro with newfound respect, a man plucked out of time and space, who then helps defend his ship. Starfleet has always encountered the unexpected, but this is one for the books. Zoro just nods, sliding his hands into his Haramaki sash, like it was just another day's scuffle. Glad I could return the favor. Your people helped me, so I help you. That's how it works. Counselor Trory arrives on the scene as well, having followed the captain. She observes the camaraderie now, sensing Zoro's adrenaline-fueled satisfaction. She smiles at Picard. He's feeling quite pleased, and a little hungry actually. Zoro's stomach chooses that moment to rumble audibly, and he gives a small, embarrassed scowl. Worf actually laughs, a short, barking laugh of surprise. Ha, a warrior's appetite. The tension broken, Picard allows himself a chuckle too. Mr. Zoro, I think we owe you a hearty meal for services rendered. Zoro perks up at that. Food, I won't say no to, he admits. It has been a long, weird day, and nothing wraps up a fight better than some good meat and ale, or whatever analog this ship has. Riker pats Zoro on the shoulder, finding it solid as a rock. We'll replicate you whatever you want, and maybe something for that thirst of yours that Guinan won't get mad at us for giving out. Guinan, who has just strolled down the corridor to peek at the aftermath, simply raises an amused eyebrow. Not long after the dust settles, Zoro finds himself in the Enterprise's observation lounge, a long tabled room with a panoramic view of the stars. Outside, the anomaly that brought him here has stabilized into a gentle swirling portal, thanks to the Enterprise's science team working with data. The senior staff is gathered one last time with their dimensional castaway, sharing a well-earned meal before farewells. A plate of replicated steak and potatoes sits half-eaten before Zoro. He ate voraciously, to the amazement of those watching. He put away 3 steaks like they were nothing. Now he leans back, content, while Dr. Crusher fusses over a few minor scratches on his arm. With a medical tricorder, Zoro endured this only after being bribed with said food. Picard lifts a glass of his beloved Earl Grey tea, proposing a toast of sorts. To Mr. Roronoa Zoro, for reminding us that bravery and honor can be found in the most unexpected of visitors. The crew raise their glasses, Worf with his prune juice, a warrior's drink, as he calls it, Riker with a sly grin, Data literally raising a glass of water in a human-like gesture. Androids don't eat, but he participates, and Troy with a cup of rich hot chocolate. She opted for dessert. Zoro, not used to formal toasts, scratches his head, a bit flustered. Ah, thanks, and cheers. He raises a mug of something non-alcoholic. They insisted he try a protein shake to restore energy, which he found weird but tolerable. As everyone sips and smiles, Picard gets down to business. Mr. Data and Lieutenant LaForge have rigged a way to reopen the spatial rift safely. We should be able to send you back to your world, to roughly the same location we suspect you came from. Geordie, from down the table, eagerly adds, think of it like charting a return course through a storm. We matched the quantum frequency and phase variance to lock onto where you entered the anomaly. He stops when he sees Zoro's eyes glazing over at the technical jargon. In simple terms, we can get you home. Good. Zoro nods firmly. As much as this detour turned out all right, he has a crew waiting for him, and a promise to fulfill, to become the world's greatest swordsman. He won't achieve that floating around in space, however hospitable these Starfleet folks have been. Worf steps forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. Before you go, Zoro, I have something for you. He unwraps it to reveal the broken half of the Klingon bat'leth. The piece, Zoro sliced clean off the leader's weapon. Worf had retrieved it after the fight. Now he presents it to Zoro with reverence. You have more than earned this trophy. May it remind you that you will always have friends and sparring partners among the Klingons and on the Enterprise, Worf says solemnly. Zoro takes the curved blade fragment. It's heavy, but he handles it like it's feather light, running a thumb over the jagged edge where it was cut. He grins. I'll remember that fight for sure. Thanks, Worf. He tucks the bat'leth shard into his sash alongside his swords, an unusual memento, but one he appreciates. Riker raises an eyebrow and teases. You know, Zoro, with moves like that, you'd make one hell of a Starfleet security officer.
We could even get you a shiny uniform and a rank to match. There's a glint of humor in his eyes. Zoro snorts in amusement, realizing it's a friendly offer. Thanks, but I'll pass. I already have a crew and a captain. I wouldn't trade for anything. I'm not exactly the uniform and protocol type. He says it with respect, and the crew understands. His place is back with his own, under the sun and sails rather than starship bulkheads. Picard nods approvingly, an understandable sentiment. Loyalty is a virtue we hold in high regard as well.
Picard now gestures towards the viewports where the swirling rift awaits against the darkness of space. Our navigational sensors indicate your crew's last known coordinates correspond to this vector, he explains. We can send a shuttle with you to ensure you're safely through, or beam you directly. Zoro stands up and stretches, rolling his neck. No need for the fuss. If you point me in the right direction, I can handle it from there. He gives a confident, perhaps overly optimistic smirk. Just tell me which way to go. The senior staff exchange amused glances. Troy hides a small laugh behind her hand, recalling just how directionally challenged their friend is. Data opens his mouth, likely about to recite precise coordinates and trajectory, but Riker interrupts gently. Picard walks over to Zoro and offers a handshake. Zoro takes it firmly. It's been an honor, Mr. Zoro. I suspect you'll have quite the story to tell your people. Zoro chuckles. They're used to crazy stories. He then adds sincerely, thanks, all of you. You didn't have to trust me or help me, but you did. I owe you one. Just doing our duty to help those in need, Picard says with a kindly smile. Besides, you helped us as well. Worf gives a respectful nod. If you ever find yourself in our quadrant again, I would gladly face you in battle once more, as allies or in a friendly rematch. There's a twinkle in the usually stern Klingon's eye. Zoro grins. Be careful what you wish for, Worf. Next time I'll use all 3 swords from the start, with final farewells exchanged. Data escorts Zoro one last time down to the shuttle bay, where the portal home awaits. This time, the android keeps a very close eye on Zoro to make sure he doesn't make any unintended detours. They arrive at a set of large doors that open onto the hangar deck, where the shimmering portal is being projected just outside the force field. Stars glitter beyond, and the rift pulsates with a gentle beckoning light. Zoro steps up to the force field barrier that keeps the bay pressurized and gazes out. It almost looks like the eye of a storm on the sea. He muses. On the other side of that swirling window might be his ocean, his ship, his friends. Data stands by a console, ready to deactivate the force field and open the bay doors at Picard's command. Over the comma, Picard's voice comes through. We're ready on this end. Safe travels, Mr. Zoro. Engage. The force field flickers off, and an open path to the anomaly lies ahead. Zoro gives one last nod to Data, and the small send-off party of engineers and security personnel gathered to watch this unusual departure. See ya around, he offers in his gruff way, which in his language is genuine gratitude. Then, without further ado, Roro Noah Zoro strides forward and immediately turns the wrong way, heading toward a stack of cargo containers, completely opposite the glowing rift. Data's eyebrows shoot up. Mr. Zoro, he calls out politely. The portal is that way. The android points clearly toward the correct opening. Zoro stops, realizing his mistake, and coughs into his fist as if to pretend he meant to inspect the containers.
I knew that. He swiftly pivots and marches the right way this time, trying to play it off. The onlookers hide smiles. With swords at his side and a final wave over his shoulder, Zoro leaps through the rift. The portal flares brightly, and then with a gentle whoosh, collapses in on itself. The bay doors close and the force field re-engages, leaving the shuttle bay quiet once more. Data taps his comm badge. Shuttle bay to bridge. The traveler has departed. On the bridge, the crew confirms the anomaly dissipating. Picard allows himself a satisfied smile and looks around at his officers. "Make it so," he says softly, signaling an end to the incident and a return to normal operations. Back in the observation lounge, Worf peers out at the stars where the rift had been. Troy steps up beside him. "He's gone," she says, a note of wonder still in her voice. "Do you think he'll be all right?" Worf grunts affirmatively. "Zoro is a survivor. I have no doubt he will find his way." Then the Klingon catches himself and adds with a grudging smirk, "Eventually." Troy laughs quietly, and even the ever-stoic Worf lets out a low chuckle. The Enterprise D sails on through the stars, carrying a crew that will not soon forget the green-haired swordsman who got lost on their ship and won their hearts through courage, chaos, and unwavering loyalty. A legend they might toast to in 10 forward for years to come.